The invitation had arrived 6 weeks ago, embossed with gold lettering. Rachel Chin and Marcus Wellington request your presence at their engagement celebration. I'd almost declined. 3 years of family gatherings where Rachel introduced me as my sister who does freelance work had worn thin. But Mom had called personally, her voice carrying that particular blend of hope and desperation. Please come, Maya. It would mean so much to Rachel. To all of us. So here I was, standing in the marble-floored ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel, wearing a simple black dress from Nordstrom Rack, surrounded by Rachel's wealthy friends in their designer everything. Rachel spotted me immediately. She was radiant in a cream-colored cocktail dress, her engagement ring catching the light, a 3-carat diamond that Marcus had apparently proposed with on a yacht in the Mediterranean. She'd posted 17 Instagram stories about it. Maya. She air-kissed both my cheeks. You made it. I wasn't sure you'd come. Wouldn't miss it, I said. Let me introduce you around. She grabbed my arm and steered me toward a cluster of women holding champagne flutes. Everyone, this is my sister Maya. Maya, these are my sorority sisters from Stanford, Jennifer, Amanda, and Courtney. Nice to meet you, I said. Maya's the artistic one in the family, Rachel explained with that particular tone that made artistic sound like a polite word for unemployed. She does freelance work. Oh, how interesting, Jennifer said in a voice that meant the opposite. What kind of freelance work? Content strategy and consulting, I said simply. So like social media posts? Amanda asked. Something like that. Rachel's fiancé Marcus appeared, drink in hand, looking every bit the investment banker he was. You must be the famous Maya. Rachel's told me so much about you. All good things, I hope. Of course. He smiled, but his eyes were already assessing me. My off-the-rack dress, my practical shoes, my lack of expensive jewelry. I could see him mentally filing me under Rachel's less successful sister. Rachel mentioned you work from home. That must be nice. Very flexible. It has its advantages, I agreed. Marcus just made VP at Goldman Sachs, Rachel interjected proudly. Youngest in his division. Congratulations, I said genuinely. The conversation drifted to Marcus's promotion, then to their wedding plans. A destination ceremony in Tuscany, naturally. I sipped my champagne and smiled at appropriate moments, playing the role I'd perfected over the years. The supportive younger sister who was happy for Rachel's success even if her own life was somewhat directionless. Mom and Dad arrived fashionably late. Dad in his country club blazer, Mom in pearls that probably cost more than my monthly rent. They made their rounds, greeting Rachel's future in-laws with practiced charm. When they reached me, Mom's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Maya, darling. That's a nice dress. Is it new? A few months old, I said. Well, it's lovely. Simple. She patted my arm. How's work? Busy, I said. Still doing the freelance thing? Dad asked, and I could hear the unspoken question. When are you going to get a real job? Still doing that, yes. Rachel reappeared with another group of friends. Everyone, this is Maya. My little sister. She's a freelancer. The word had become my identity in the family lexicon. Not Maya the strategist or Maya the consultant. Just Maya the freelancer. Maya the one who never quite figured it out. What they didn't know, what I'd deliberately never told them, was that my freelance work had evolved considerably over the past 5 years. It had started simply enough. After graduating from Berkeley with a degree in communications, I'd taken a few small consulting gigs while figuring out my next move. Social media strategy for local businesses. Content planning for startups. Small projects that paid the bills while I learned the industry. But then I'd started noticing patterns. The companies that succeeded weren't just posting content randomly. They had sophisticated strategies, data-driven approaches, psychological frameworks for audience engagement. I started developing my own methodology, refining it with each client. Within 2 years, I was working with Series B startups. Within 3, I had Fortune 500 companies on my client roster. By year 4, I'd built a consulting firm. Technically just me and a network of contractors, but we were generating $3.4 million in annual revenue. I'd kept the same apartment in Oakland. Drove the same Honda. Lived simply. And I'd never corrected my family's assumption that I was struggling. It seemed easier than trying to explain to people who'd already decided who I was. So Maya, Marcus's father approached, clearly making polite conversation. Rachel tells me you do social media work. Are you on Instagram? LinkedIn? I'm on LinkedIn, I said. You should connect with Marcus. He knows lots of people in tech. Maybe he could help you find something more stable than freelance work. That's kind of you, I said diplomatically. Rachel overheard and jumped in. Oh, that's a great idea. Marcus, you should introduce Maya to some of your contacts. She's been freelancing for years now. It's probably time for something more permanent, right, Maya? Every eye in the circle turned to me, waiting for me to gratefully accept their charity. I'm pretty happy with my current situation, I said carefully. But don't you want stability? Rachel pressed. Benefits? A 401k? You're 29, Maya. Most people our age have careers by now. Rachel has a point, Mom added, having drifted back into the conversation. We worry about you, sweetie. Freelancing is so uncertain. What happens when you're older? When you want to buy a house or start a family? I'm managing fine, I said. Are you though? Dad asked with fatherly concern that felt more like doubt. Because you never talk about your work. You never share any wins or successes. It makes us wonder if things are actually going well or if you're just too proud to admit you're struggling. The circle had grown. More of Rachel's friends, Marcus's colleagues, family members, all watching this intervention disguised as concern. I'm not struggling, I said quietly. Then why are you still freelancing? Rachel asked, genuinely confused. If things were going well, wouldn't you have been hired by now? Wouldn't you have a real position somewhere? I prefer the autonomy, I said. Autonomy, Marcus repeated with a slight smile. That's one word for it. Look, Maya, no judgment, but we've all been there. That phase after college where you're trying to figure things out, taking whatever work comes your way. But there comes a time when you need to accept that maybe the dream isn't working out and pivot to something more realistic. What dream? I asked. Whatever it is you're chasing with this freelance thing. The idea that you can make a real living without a traditional career. It's a nice fantasy, but the numbers don't usually work out. Trust me, I see the data every day at Goldman. Several people nodded in agreement. Rachel looked at me with sisterly sympathy, like she was watching me finally face a difficult truth. I appreciate the concern, I said evenly. But I'm doing fine. You always say that, Rachel said with mild frustration. You always say everything is fine. But Maya, it's been 5 years since graduation. 5 years of freelancing with nothing to show for it. No promotions, no title changes, no forward momentum. Just the same vague answer every time we ask what you do. Maybe that's because you never actually ask what I do, I pointed out. You ask if I'm still freelancing, and when I say yes, the conversation ends. Because there's nothing to talk about, Dad said bluntly. Freelancing isn't a career, Maya. It's something you do between careers. Unless you're actually successful at it, I said. Are you? Marcus challenged, not unkindly. Because I think if you were really successful, you'd be more eager to share details. The fact that you're so secretive about your work suggests you're embarrassed about the reality of the situation. The logic was sound. From their perspective, I was hiding failure behind vague answers and deflection. I'm not embarrassed, I said. Then tell us, Rachel urged. Tell us about your freelance work. What are you working on? Who are your clients? How much are you making? Help us understand why you're so committed to this path. The entire party seemed to be listening now. The room had gone quiet, all attention focused on Rachel's struggling little sister who was about to either defend her choices or admit defeat. I opened my mouth to respond when someone's phone chimed loudly in the silence. Oh my God, a voice said from the back of the crowd. One of Rachel's Stanford friends, I thought her name was Jessica, was staring at her phone with her mouth open. Oh my God. What? Rachel asked, annoyed at the interruption. Jessica looked up, her face pale. She looked directly at me. You're Maya Chin? The Maya Chin. I'm Maya Chin, I confirmed cautiously. From Strategic Synthesis Consulting? My company name. The one I'd carefully never mentioned at family gatherings. Yes, I said. Jessica thrust her phone toward Rachel. Your sister is on Forbes. The 30 under 30 list. Industry leaders category. The champagne glass in Rachel's hand froze halfway to her lips. "What?" she said. "Forbes 30 under 30, Jessica repeated, her voice rising with excitement. "The list just dropped tonight. Maya Chin's Strategic Synthesis Consulting. It says she's revolutionized content strategy for Fortune 500 companies and generated over $50 million in value for her clients over the past 3 years." The silence was absolute. Marcus took Jessica's phone, read the screen, then looked at me like he was seeing a completely different person. "You're listed as founder and CEO of Strategic Synthesis. The article says you've worked with Adobe, Salesforce, and Microsoft. Among others," I said calmly. Dad grabbed the phone next. His face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally something like awe. "It says your consulting firm is valued at $8.2 million. Is that accurate?" "It's a conservative estimate," I said. "We'll probably hit $12 million by year end." Mom made a sound like someone had punched her. $12 million? Your company is worth $12 million. The valuation is based on annual recurring revenue and client contracts, I explained. "But yes, roughly that range." Rachel was scrolling through her own phone now, frantically pulling up the Forbes article. I could see her reading, her face growing paler with each paragraph. "You worked with Microsoft," she read aloud. "You developed their global content strategy that increased engagement by 340%. You consulted for Adobe on their Creative Cloud marketing approach. She looked up at me. "You've been doing this the whole time? These huge companies, these massive projects, and you never said anything." "You never asked," I pointed out again. "We asked all the time." Dad protested. "You asked if I was still freelancing, which technically I am. Strategic Synthesis is structured as a consulting firm, and I work independently with clients on a project basis. That's freelancing. You just assumed freelancing meant I was barely getting by." Marcus was scrolling now to your LinkedIn profile. Jesus Christ. You have recommendations from C-suite executives at half the Fortune 500. Your company website. How did we never find this? My company operates under a different name than my personal brand, I explained. And I keep a low profile deliberately. Most of my clients prefer confidential consulting relationships. Jennifer, the Stanford friend who'd originally asked what kind of freelance work I did, looked like she might faint. "You're the Maya Chin who spoke at Stanford's business school last month. About digital strategy and brand positioning. I was there. I didn't connect. You looked so different in the photos." "Professional headshots," I said simply. Rachel had found my company website. "Your consulting rates start at $50,000 per project." $50,000. For a single project. "That's the minimum," I confirmed. "Enterprise contracts typically run $200,000 to $500,000. The math was visibly happening in everyone's heads. The number of projects I'd need to hit $3.4 million in annual revenue. The kind of clients paying those rates. The level of expertise required to command those fees. "Why didn't you tell us?" Mom asked, and her voice cracked. "All these years we thought you were struggling. We worried about you. And you were running a multi-million-dollar company. Would you have believed me if I'd told you 3 years ago?" I asked. "When I was just starting to build the client base. When you all assumed freelancing meant failure." Silence. Because we all knew the answer. "You let us think you were barely getting by," Dad said slowly. "You lived in that small apartment, drove that old car, dressed simply. You let us pity you." "I didn't let you do anything," I corrected. "You made assumptions based on your definition of success. I just didn't bother correcting them because your opinion of my career choices stopped mattering around year 2. The words landed hard. Rachel actually flinched. "That's not fair," she said quietly. "Isn't it?" I looked around at all of them. "How many times did you introduce me as your unemployed sister, or the freelancer? How many family gatherings ended with someone suggesting I get a real job, or offering to connect me with entry-level positions? You didn't see me as successful because I didn't fit your narrow definition of what success looks like." Marcus's father cleared his throat. "To be fair, you were rather secretive about your work. You never shared details or achievements. That naturally led to assumptions. I shared what I was willing to share with people who had already judged me," I said. "Every time I mentioned a project or a client, it was met with skepticism or condescension. So I stopped sharing. I focused on building something real instead of defending myself to people who weren't actually interested in understanding my work. We were interested, Mom protested weakly. You were interested in me fitting into your expectations, I corrected gently. There's a difference. Rachel's phone buzzed. Then Marcus's. Then several others around the room. They all looked at their screens with varying expressions of shock. It's trending, Jessica said. The Forbes 30 under 30 announcement. Maya's profile is getting shared everywhere. Tech Twitter is exploding. Marcus was reading something on his phone, his expression growing more uncomfortable by the second. Someone from my firm just texted me. They want to know if I can introduce them to you. They're interested in hiring strategic synthesis for a major consulting project. I'm booked through next year, I said. But tell them to contact my team through the website. We can discuss 2026 availability. The casual way I said 2026 availability seemed to drive home just how successful I actually was. This wasn't a struggling freelancer grateful for any project. This was a highly sought-after consultant with a waiting list. Dad was still staring at his phone. There's a profile of you in TechCrunch from 6 months ago. The content strategist who doesn't chase followers but commands respect. Why didn't I ever see this? Because you never looked, I said simply. You assumed you knew my story, so you never bothered to research what I was actually building. Rachel set down her champagne glass carefully, like she was afraid she might drop it. I introduced you as unemployed tonight. To everyone here. I told them you were just doing freelance work, and I said it like... She couldn't finish the sentence. Like it was something to be embarrassed about, I finished for her. Yes, I noticed. I didn't know, she whispered. You didn't ask. You could have told me. I could have, I agreed. But somewhere around the third or fourth time you introduced me as your struggling sister, I realized you weren't interested in my actual life. You were interested in maintaining a particular narrative where you were the successful daughter and I was the cautionary tale. The truth of that statement hung in the air. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. That's not. I didn't. She looked around at her friends, her fiancé, our parents. Everyone was watching her. I was trying to help. We all were. You were trying to fix something that wasn't broken, I said. You saw freelancing and assumed failure because it didn't match your definition of success. But I've been successful by my own metrics this whole time. I built something meaningful, worked with incredible companies, and maintained the autonomy I value. The fact that it didn't come with a traditional job title or office building didn't make it less real. Marcus stepped forward, looking genuinely apologetic. I owe you an apology. Everything I said earlier about freelancing being a phase, about pivoting to something realistic, I was completely wrong. And condescending. I'm sorry. Apology accepted, I said. Can I ask you something? He glanced at Rachel. Why did you keep it secret? Really? I considered the question carefully. Because I learned something important early on. The people who truly respect you don't need external validation to believe in you. They don't need Forbes to tell them you're successful. They trust your judgment and support your choices even when they don't fully understand them. And the people who do need that external validation, they're not really supporting you. They're supporting the idea of success they can understand and quantify. That's what you think of us? Mom asked, hurt evident in her voice. That we only value you now because Forbes validated you? Don't you? I asked gently. 20 minutes ago, you were all concerned about my lack of stability and suggesting I needed Marcus's help to find a real job. Now you're all looking at me differently. The only thing that changed was external validation. I'm the same person doing the same work I've been doing for 5 years. But now it counts because Forbes said so. The accuracy of that observation was written on every face. Dad cleared his throat. You're right. You're absolutely right, and I hate that you're right. We should have trusted you. Believed in you. Asked more questions and made fewer assumptions. Yes, I agreed simply. Can you forgive us? Rachel asked, tears now streaming down her face. I've been a terrible sister. Dismissive and condescending and so focused on my own achievements that I completely missed yours. I'm so sorry. I looked at her. My sister who'd been so proud of her Stanford degree, her consulting job, her wealthy fiancé. She'd built a life that looked successful by conventional measures. And she genuinely believed she was further ahead than me. I forgive you, I said. But Rachel, you need to understand something. This isn't just about tonight or this party. This is about 5 years of you treating my choices like mistakes. 5 years of introductions that made me sound like a failure. 5 years of unsolicited advice from people who never bothered to understand what I was actually building. I know, she whispered. I know, and I hate myself for it. Don't hate yourself, I said more gently. Just learn from it. Learn that success comes in different forms. That someone can be doing exceptionally well even if their path doesn't match your expectations. That maybe you should ask questions before making judgments. Jessica suddenly spoke up. For what it's worth, I follow your work. I've read several of your articles in Harvard Business Review and Fast Company. I just never made the connection because you don't use photos on your bylines, and your personal social media presence is minimal. I prefer to let the work speak for itself, I said. Well, the work is incredible, Jessica said earnestly. Your framework for authentic brand storytelling changed how I think about marketing strategy. I used your methodology to rebuild our entire content approach at my startup. I'm glad it helped, I said sincerely. Marcus's phone buzzed again. My managing director just texted. He's asking if we can arrange a meeting with you. He says Goldman has been trying to get on your client roster for 2 years. We're in preliminary discussions, I confirmed. Nothing finalized yet. The casual way I mentioned Goldman Sachs, Marcus's own firm, pursuing my services seemed to complete the reversal of our earlier dynamic. He'd been offering to help me find work. His own employer had been chasing me for 2 years. This is surreal, Rachel said, half laughing through her tears. 2 hours ago I was introducing you as my unemployed sister. Now you're on Forbes and Goldman Sachs is trying to hire you. The situation hasn't changed, I pointed out. Only your perception of it. That's what makes it surreal. We were so wrong about everything. Mom had been quietly crying and now she approached me carefully. Can you forgive me too? I've been so worried about you, but I realize now that worry was based on my own limited understanding of what your life could be. I should have trusted that you knew what you were doing. I forgive you, Mom, I said. But I need you to understand that this isn't a happy ending where everything is suddenly fine. You spent 5 years doubting me. That hurt. And it's going to take time for me to trust that you actually respect my choices rather than just being impressed by Forbes' validation. That's fair, she said. More than fair. Dad stepped forward. What can we do? How do we make this right? Start by actually asking about my work, I said. Not, are you still freelancing, but genuine curiosity about what I'm doing, who I'm working with, what challenges I'm facing. Treat me like the expert I've become rather than the struggling graduate you're worried about. We can do that, he promised. And stop assuming that unconventional paths are failures. I added. Just because someone's career doesn't look like yours doesn't mean it's not working. The party had fully stopped now. Everyone was clustered around listening to this unexpected drama. Rachel's engagement celebration had become my impromptu coming out party as a successful entrepreneur. Can I ask you something? Marcus said. Why didn't you ever correct us? Even once. Because I learned that some lessons people need to learn on their own, I said. If I'd told you 3 years ago that I was building a successful consulting firm, you would have smiled politely and still worried behind my back. You needed to be wrong so you could understand the cost of your assumptions. That's harsh, he said. But effective, I countered. Right now, every single person in this room is reconsidering their assumptions about success, career paths, and unconventional choices. That wouldn't have happened if I'd just told you about my achievements. You had to be confronted with your own prejudices to actually change your thinking. Rachel laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. So you've been conducting a long-term experiment in family dynamics? Using us to prove a point. I've been living my life while letting you draw your own conclusions, I said. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. A text from my business partner. Forbes announcement is blowing up. Website traffic is up 4,000%. Should I start filtering the new client inquiries? I typed back. Filter for Fortune 100 only. Everyone else goes on the waiting list. I looked up to find everyone watching me. Work? Dad asked. Client inquiries, I confirmed. The Forbes announcement tends to generate a lot of interest. I bet, Marcus said. Can I ask what your typical project scope looks like? I'm genuinely curious now. So I told him. I explained how strategic synthesis worked with companies to completely rebuild their content strategy from the ground up. How we use data analytics combined with psychological frameworks to create authentic brand narratives. How a typical engagement lasted 6 to 9 months and involved working directly with C-suite executives. And as I talked, I watched their faces change. They were finally seeing me, not their assumptions about me but the actual person I'd become. This is incredible, Jennifer said when I finished. You're doing exactly what I want to be doing in 5 years. Then don't let anyone tell you freelancing isn't a real career, I said. If you're good at what you do and you provide genuine value, the path doesn't matter. Rachel wiped her eyes and managed a genuine smile. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm incredibly proud of what you've built. Thank you, I said. Does this change anything? She asked quietly. Between us? I considered the question. I don't know yet. I need time to process tonight, and years of feeling dismissed don't disappear because of one Forbes announcement. But I'm willing to try rebuilding our relationship on more honest terms. I'd like that, she said. And I promise, no more introducing you as the unemployed sister. How about just introducing me as Maya? I suggested. No qualifiers about my career or success. Just your sister. Just my sister, she repeated. I can do that. The party gradually resumed, but everything had shifted. People approached me with genuine interest now, asking thoughtful questions about my work instead of offering condescending advice. Marcus's colleagues wanted to discuss consulting strategies. Rachel's friends asked about entrepreneurship and building a business. And through it all, I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. Vindication because I'd been right to trust my own path. Sadness because it had taken Forbes to make my own family see me clearly. Around midnight, as the party wound down, Rachel found me on the balcony. Thank you for coming tonight, she said. Even though we made it incredibly uncomfortable. You didn't know, I said. But I should have asked. She leaned against the railing beside me. Can I ask you something now? Honestly. Sure. Are you happy? With your work, your life, all of it? I thought about my answer carefully. Yes. I love what I do. I work with fascinating companies on complex problems. I have the autonomy to choose my projects and clients. I make enough money to live comfortably and save for the future. And I built it all myself without compromise. So yes, I'm happy. I'm glad, she said. Really glad. And I'm sorry it took Forbes for me to see it. Me too, I admitted. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we both needed tonight to understand each other better. She smiled. Look at us. Having an actual honest conversation. We should try it more often. Deal, she said. Starting now. Tell me about your work. Really tell me. I want to understand what you've built. So I did. For the first time in 5 years, I told my sister about strategic synthesis, about my clients and projects and challenges. About the methodology I'd developed and the impact I'd had. About the life I'd built that looked nothing like hers but was just as valid. And she listened. Really listened. Without judgment or condescension or concern. Just my sister finally seeing me clearly. When I drove home that night, my phone was full of messages. From clients, colleagues, former classmates who'd seen the Forbes announcement. But the one that mattered most was from Rachel. Thank you for teaching me to ask questions instead of making assumptions. I love you and I'm proud of you. Always was, even if I didn't know it. I smiled and put the phone away. 5 years of doubt. Erased by one Forbes article. It wasn't the ending I'd expected, but it was the ending I'd earned. The text came through at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in my home office in Seattle reviewing acquisition proposals when my phone lit up with the family group chat notification. Mom, stop acting like you're important. We know you're struggling. Below it, a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile. Someone had updated my job title to founder and CEO. 3 months ago when we closed Series D funding. I'd kept it vague intentionally, no company name, no details. Just the title. Aunt Linda, this is embarrassing, Sarah. Just admit you're unemployed. Uncle Robert. My niece, the CEO of her bedroom startup face with tears of joy. My brother Tyler, Mom's right. Time to get a real job instead of playing entrepreneur. I set the phone down and went back to the term sheet from the automotive company wanting to license our battery technology. $340 million over 5 years. I highlighted a clause about intellectual property rights, made a note for our legal team and moved to the next document. The texts kept coming. Tyler, seriously Sarah, this is getting sad. You're 29. Stop with the fantasy. Mom, we're worried about you. This delusion isn't healthy. Dad, your brother has a real career at the bank. Maybe he can get you an interview for an administrative position. I'd heard variations of this for 7 years. Ever since I'd dropped out of Stanford's MBA program to work on lithium polymer battery compression in my apartment. They'd called it my science project. My expensive hobby. My quarter-life crisis. When I tried to explain the breakthrough, a new molecular bonding process that increased energy density by 340% while reducing charging time to under 8 minutes, Dad had interrupted. Sarah, that's nice, but when are you going to focus on something practical? That was 4 years ago. Since then I'd stopped trying to explain. I'd stopped attending family dinners where they'd ask when I was finally going to give up and get a real job. I'd stopped responding to Mom's weekly emails with job listings for entry-level positions that might be a good fit. I just kept working. My phone buzzed again. Aunt Linda. Remember when she said she was raising capital? Turns out it was just her maxing out credit cards face with tears of joy. Uncle Robert. The whole family is embarrassed. Just stop. My cousin Jessica. My mom's book club keeps asking about Sarah the CEO. It's humiliating. I finished reviewing the automotive proposal, approved it with a digital signature, and forwarded it to our CFO. The deal would close next week. It would be our 7th major licensing agreement this quarter. The family group chat had gone quiet around midnight. I assumed they'd exhausted themselves and gone to bed. I was wrong. At 6:15 a.m., my phone started ringing. I let it go to voicemail. He called again immediately. Then Mom. Then Tyler. I was in the middle of a video call with our Japanese partners. It was evening in Tokyo, discussing the manufacturing facility we were opening in Osaka. I muted the call and texted the family chat. In a meeting. We'll call later. Tyler. A meeting face with tears of joy face with tears of joy face with tears of joy. Mom. Stop lying, Sarah. This is getting pathological. The texts continued while I finished the Tokyo call, approved the Osaka facility budget, $180 million, and started my morning review of the overnight European markets. Our stock price had jumped 7% on rumors of the automotive licensing deal. At 7:30 a.m. my phone rang again. This time it was my sister Emily who rarely participated in the family drama. You need to check Forbes, she said without preamble. Why? Just check Forbes. Dad's losing his mind. She hung up. I opened Forbes.com on my laptop. The homepage loaded. And there I was. Center of the screen. Professional headshot they'd taken 3 weeks ago. The headline. The 29-year-old who solved electric vehicles' biggest problem. Below it, Sarah Chen's revolutionary battery technology has attracted $2.8 billion in venture funding and partnerships with 7 major automotive manufacturers. Forbes exclusive interview inside. My phone exploded. Dad was calling. Mom was calling. Tyler, Aunt Linda, Uncle Robert, Jessica, cousins I hadn't heard from in years. All calling simultaneously. I let them ring. The article was comprehensive. They'd interviewed our investors, our partners, the automotive CEOs. They'd toured our facility, photographed our labs, verified our patents. They'd done 3 weeks of fact-checking before publishing. The article detailed everything. The breakthrough. The $50 million Series A in 2021. The $200 million Series B in 2022. The $600 million Series C in 2023. The $1.95 billion Series D 3 months ago that had valued the company at $2.8 billion. It included quotes from the CEO of one of the largest automotive manufacturers in the world. Sarah Chen's technology will define the next generation of electric vehicles. This isn't incremental improvement, it's revolutionary. There were photos of our 85,000 square foot facility in Seattle. Our team of 247 employees. The battery prototypes. The testing labs. And right there in the sidebar, Forbes 30 under 30, energy category. My phone had 47 missed calls. The family group chat had 89 new messages. I opened it. The tone had changed completely. Aunt Linda, I always knew Sarah was brilliant. Uncle Robert, so proud of my niece. Jessica, OMG, everyone at my office is talking about you. Tyler, hey sis, congrats. Always believed in you. Mom, we always supported your dreams, honey. I stared at the messages, my face neutral. Years of dismissal. Years of mockery. Years of being called delusional, unemployed, embarrassing. And now, because Forbes had confirmed what I'd been trying to tell them for 7 years, suddenly they'd always believed in me. Dad called again. This time I answered. Sarah. Honey. Why didn't you tell us? I tried, I said calmly. For 7 years. Well, you weren't very clear about it. We thought you were just working as a janitor? I quoted Mom's text from last night. Playing entrepreneur in my bedroom? Silence. Your mother and I are very proud, he said finally. We'd love to take you to dinner. Celebrate properly. I'm busy. Sir, come on. Don't be like that. Like what? Petty. We're family. I looked at my laptop screen. The Forbes article. The family group chat with 112 messages now. Screenshots of the article being shared. Relatives I hadn't heard from in a decade suddenly commenting with congratulations. I need to go, I said. I have actual meetings. Wait, Forbes mentioned partnerships with automotive companies. Which ones? Your brother works with several major. I hung up. By 9 a.m., my assistant had fielded calls from 6 different family members trying to reach me. Tyler wanted to discuss investment opportunities. Aunt Linda wondered if we were hiring for her son. Uncle Robert had business connections he wanted to share. Mom texted, Honey, I'm so sorry if we seemed unsupportive. We just wanted to protect you from disappointment. I didn't respond. At 10 a.m. I had a board meeting. Our lead investor from the Series A, the one who'd believed in the technology when it was just equations on a whiteboard, smiled at me across the conference table. Congratulations on the Forbes piece, she said. Well deserved. Though I'm guessing your phone's been blowing up. Family, I said simply. She nodded knowingly. Let me guess. Suddenly everyone remembers being supportive. Something like that. The board meeting proceeded. We discussed the automotive deals, the Osaka facility, preliminary conversations with 3 aerospace companies interested in the technology for electric aircraft. The CFO presented Q3 numbers. Revenue up 340%, operating at 23% profit margin, projected $890 million in revenue for the fiscal year. My phone buzzed constantly throughout. I'd silenced it, but I could see the notifications stacking up on my watch. After the meeting I finally looked. The family group chat had 247 messages. Tyler had sent a private message. Hey, I'm really sorry about last night. I didn't know. Can we talk? I'd love to learn more about what you're doing. Mom had sent an email with the subject line, Family Celebration Dinner, this weekend? Dad had left 3 voicemails. Aunt Linda had posted on Facebook, so proud of my brilliant niece Sarah Chin. Always knew she'd do amazing things. Hashtag Forbes 30 under 30 hashtag proud aunt. I opened Facebook. Her post had 340 likes. The comments were full of people I'd grown up with, people who'd watched my family dismiss me at gatherings for years. Someone had commented, Didn't you tell me last month she was unemployed? Aunt Linda had responded, Oh no. I said she was working on something entrepreneurial. So exciting to see it pay off. I closed Facebook. My assistant knocked on my office door. Your mother's on line 3. She says it's urgent. Tell her I'm in meetings all day. She said she'd hold. Tell her I'll call her back. My assistant hesitated. She's called 6 times already this morning. I'm aware. She left, closing the door gently behind her. I looked at the Forbes article still open on my screen. 7 years. 7 years of working 90-hour weeks. 7 years of maxing out credit cards before we got funding. 7 years of being told I was wasting my potential, embarrassing the family, living in a fantasy. And now that Forbes had confirmed it, now that external validation had arrived, suddenly they wanted to celebrate. Suddenly they'd always believed. Suddenly I was worthy of their pride. My phone rang. Emily. I answered. Hey. Mom's freaking out, she said. She's been crying all morning. About what? About, the things they said. She feels terrible. She texted me at 11:47 p.m. to tell me I was pretending to be important and that everyone knew I was struggling. Silence. That was before Forbes, Emily said quietly. I know. That's the point. Sarah, their family. They made a mistake. They didn't know. I told them. For 7 years I told them. They chose not to believe me until Forbes confirmed it. Can you blame them? You dropped out of Stanford, maxed out your credit cards, refused every job offer Dad got you. To build something revolutionary. Which I did. Emily sighed. So what, you're never going to talk to them again? I didn't say that. Then what? I looked out my office window at the Seattle skyline. The facility where 247 people came to work every day, building the future of energy storage. The labs where we'd achieved what the industry said was impossible. I'm just not interested in performing gratitude, I said, for people who only value me now that I have external validation. They're proud of you. They're proud of the Forbes article. There's a difference. Emily was quiet for a moment. Mom really is sorry. Great. She can text that to the family group chat where she publicly humiliated me last night. That's petty. Maybe. But I have 7 years of receipts showing exactly how they treated me when they thought I was struggling. So forgive me if I'm not rushing to celebrate with them now that it's convenient. I hung up. At 2 p.m. my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Sarah Chin. A woman's voice, professional. Speaking. This is Alexandra Morrison from Good Morning America. We'd love to have you on the show to discuss your Forbes feature and your revolutionary battery technology. Would you be available for a segment this Friday? I paused. This Friday. We're very interested in the story. Young entrepreneur, major breakthrough disrupting the automotive industry. Our audience would love to hear about your journey. My journey. The 7 years of doubt, mockery, and dismissal that would get edited into a 30-second inspirational montage about following your dreams. Let me check my schedule and get back to you, I said. Of course. I'll email you the details. We're thinking a 6-minute segment live from our New York studio. We'd cover travel and accommodation, of course. After she hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Good Morning America. The family group chat had 312 messages now. I opened it. Uncle Robert had posted another screenshot of the Forbes article. My niece. Can't wait to tell everyone at the club about this. The club. The same club where he told people I was going through a phase, when I tried to explain the battery technology at a family wedding 3 years ago. Tyler, Sarah, seriously call me. I want to make things right. Mom, honey, please. We love you. We're so proud. Let's talk. Dad, your mother's very upset. This isn't like you to hold a grudge. I set the phone down. At 4 p.m. my CFO knocked on my door. The automotive licensing deal closed. $340 million confirmed. Wire transfer will hit tomorrow. Great. Thank you. She lingered in the doorway. You okay? You seem distracted. Family stuff. She nodded knowingly. The Forbes article? Yeah. Let me guess. Suddenly everyone wants to reconnect. Something like that. She smiled sympathetically. My family did the same thing when we went public. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly had investment advice and business opportunities. She paused. For what it's worth, the people who believed in you when you were working out of your apartment, those are your real family. After she left, I thought about that. The early investors who'd taken a chance on theoretical technology. The first 10 employees who joined when we could barely make payroll. The partners who'd believed in the science when everyone else said it was impossible. Those people had seen the value before Forbes confirmed it. My family had needed external validation to believe what I'd been telling them for 7 years. At 6 p.m. I was about to leave when my phone rang. Mom again. I answered. Sarah, thank God. I've been trying to reach you all day. I've been working. Of course, honey. Of course. Listen, I need to apologize. Last night's text, I was worried about you. We all were. We thought you were struggling financially and just pretending everything was fine. We didn't know about the Forbes article or the company valuation or any of it. Because you didn't ask. You assumed. We wanted to protect you from disappointment. By calling me delusional, embarrassing, unemployed. Silence. We made a mistake, she said finally. A big one. We should have listened. We should have believed you. You should have respected me enough to take me seriously instead of waiting for Forbes to tell you I was legitimate. You're right. You're absolutely right. Can we talk about this? In person? This weekend? I looked at the email from Good Morning America on my screen. The interview request. The opportunity to tell my story to millions of people. I can't this weekend, I said. I have a television interview in New York. A television what? Good Morning America wants to do a segment. About the Forbes article and the technology. I could hear her processing this. That's wonderful, honey. Congratulations. Thank you. Maybe the weekend after? We could all get together. Celebrate properly. Maybe. Sarah, please. We love you. We're proud of you. We want to support you. Where was that support? I said calmly, when I was maxing out credit cards to fund the initial research. When I was working 90-hour weeks in my apartment. When I was explaining the breakthrough to anyone who'd listen. We didn't understand. Because you didn't try. You decided I was having a crisis instead of building something real. And nothing I said mattered until Forbes confirmed it for you. That's not fair. Isn't it? Read last night's texts. Tell me that's support. He was crying now. I'm sorry. We're all sorry. What do you want us to do? I don't know, Mom. Maybe start by acknowledging that your love and respect shouldn't require external validation. That your daughter's word should have been enough. I hung up. At 7 p.m. I was driving home when Tyler called. Hey, he said when I answered. I know you're pissed. You have every right to be. Okay. I was an asshole. For years. I made fun of your startup and called it a bedroom business and told everyone you were unemployed. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I waited. I guess I'm calling because I want to understand. Why didn't you just tell us? Show us proof? Make us believe you. I tried. No, I mean actually prove it. Show us the funding. The patents. The partnerships. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car. Tyler, I spent 7 years trying to explain what I was building. Every time someone interrupted to tell me to get a real job. Every family gathering someone made a joke about my expensive hobby. Every conversation ended with someone suggesting I apply for entry-level positions at real companies. But if you'd shown us the money wasn't the point. The technology was the point. The breakthrough was the point. And none of you cared enough to listen. We thought you were delusional. Because you assumed the worst instead of believing in me. Silence. So what now? He asked finally. You just cut us all off? No. But I'm not pretending that everything's fine. You don't get to mock me for 7 years and then celebrate with me the moment Forbes validates what I've been telling you all along. That's fair. He paused. For what it's worth, I really am proud of you. Even if I should have been proud all along. Thanks. After he hung up, I sat in my car for a long time looking at my phone. The family group chat had 389 messages now. Screenshots of the Forbes article. Congratulations. Pride. Relatives sharing the news with their own networks. And not one person had acknowledged that less than 24 hours ago, they'd been calling me delusional. I opened the email from Good Morning America and typed my response. Thank you for the invitation. I'd be happy to participate in Friday's segment. Then I opened a new text to the family group chat. I appreciate everyone's congratulations. For the record, the company has existed for 7 years, the technology has been in development for 8, and I've been trying to explain this to all of you since 2017. The only thing that changed yesterday was Forbes confirming what I'd been telling you all along. I'll be on Good Morning America this Friday discussing the breakthrough. You're welcome to watch. I hit send. The responses came immediately. Mom, we'll definitely watch, honey. So proud. Tyler, recording it for sure. Aunt Linda, can't wait to tell everyone. My Nissan GMA. I set my phone to do not disturb and went inside. The house was quiet. 3 bedrooms, 2 offices, a kitchen I rarely used because I worked too much. I'd bought it 2 years ago with my Series B earnings. A modest place by tech CEO standards but comfortable. The family had never seen it. They'd never asked to visit. They'd assumed I was struggling, living in a studio apartment somewhere, barely making rent. I made tea and sat on the couch, thinking about Alexander Morrison's question, "Would you like to share your journey?" My journey. What would I even say? I built something revolutionary while my family called me delusional. I achieved something incredible despite my family's complete lack of support. I proved everyone wrong, but I shouldn't have had to. The truth was messier than a television segment could capture. The truth was 7 years of complexity, of hurt, of perseverance despite being dismissed by the people who were supposed to believe in me. And now they wanted to celebrate. Now they wanted to be proud. Now that Forbes had told them it was okay. My phone buzzed despite being on Do Not Disturb. Emergency contacts only. Emily, I know you're not taking calls. But I wanted to say you're right. They should have believed you without Forbes. And I'm sorry I didn't defend you more. I was proud of you the whole time. I just didn't say it loud enough. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "Thank you. That means a lot." She responded immediately, "For what it's worth, you don't owe them anything. Not forgiveness, not a celebration dinner, not a relationship if you don't want one. You built something amazing despite them, not because of them. Remember that." I set the phone down and looked around my quiet house. 7 years. $2.8 billion valuation. Revolutionary technology. Forbes feature. Good Morning America interview. And all I could think about was Mom's text from last night. "Stop acting like you're important. We know you're struggling." The tea had gone cold by the time I picked up my phone again. I opened the family group chat. Dad had posted, "Looking forward to the GMA interview. Going to record it and show everyone at the office." The office. Where he'd been telling people for years that his daughter was figuring things out, and between opportunities. I started typing a response, then deleted it. What was the point? They'd seen Forbes. They'd believe Forbes. And maybe that was enough. Maybe I didn't need them to understand the 7 years of struggle. Maybe I didn't need them to acknowledge how wrong they'd been. Maybe I didn't need them to apologize for every dismissive comment, every mocking text, every assumption that I was failing. Maybe I just needed to keep building. The technology was real. The breakthrough was real. The $2.8 billion valuation was real. And I'd done it all without their belief. That, I thought, was its own kind of validation. Better than Forbes. Better than Good Morning America. Better than any external confirmation could ever be. I'd proven to myself that I could achieve something extraordinary despite everyone doubting me. And that was something no article could take away. My phone buzzed again. Another family member. Another congratulations. Another always knew you'd succeed. I set it to airplane mode and opened my laptop. There was work to do. The aerospace companies were waiting. The Osaka facility needed final approvals. The Q4 projections needed review. I had a company to run. A breakthrough to commercialize. A future to build. And whether my family believed in me or not, whether they celebrated me or not, that work would continue. Because I'd learned something important over 7 years. External validation was temporary. Self-belief was permanent. And I'd built a $2.8 billion company on the foundation of believing in myself when no one else did. That was a story worth telling. Even if it wasn't the neat, inspirational narrative Good Morning America wanted. It was the truth. And the truth, I'd learned, was more valuable than any amount of external validation could ever be. Even from Forbes. Even from family. Even from people who'd spent 7 years waiting for someone else to tell them I was worth believing in. I closed my laptop and looked out the window at Seattle's skyline. Tomorrow I'd fly to New York. I'd sit on a television set and talk about breakthrough technology and entrepreneurship and following your dreams. And I'd smile. And I'd be gracious. And I'd tell the inspiring story they wanted to hear. But I'd know the real story. The 7 years of struggle. The family who doubted. The text messages and mockery and dismissal. And I'd know that I'd succeeded despite all of it. Not because of Forbes. Not because of Good Morning America. But because I'd believed in the breakthrough when no one else did. And that belief had been enough.